I'm here today with John Barr, Executive Chairman at AIM-listed Mosman Oil Gas, Epicode MSMN, an oil and gas exploration, development and production company. John, it's good to speak with you.
Nice to speak to you, Adam.
So it's been a very busy time for Mosman. We've seen lots of announcements over the past few months, and of course some major developments at your Texas portfolio of oil assets, and of course the strategic developments with helium at the Amadeus Basin in Australia's Northern Territories. Can you firstly, though, before we go into those, provide us with a brief overview of Mosman, the company?
Yes, I can. Mosman has been AIM-listed for a bit over 6 years now. It's fundamentally run by myself and Andy Carroll, who's the technical director, and we are in two divisions. The first one being the Texas assets, which are all focused in Eastern Texas, and the second division being the Amadeus Basin, which is in Central Australia, very close to Ayers Rock as such. So we treat them somewhat separately. The Australian assets are managed from Australia. Andy and Dr. Julie Dawes does the Australian assets, and the American assets are largely managed on a day-to-day basis by Howard McLaughlin, who's been on our team for some time.
Good. Okay. John, thank you for that. So firstly, let's look at the oil assets of Mosman. You had some production issues with the Falcon 1 well early this year, which are now resolved. And of course, most recently, you announced the acquisition of a private company, Nadsoilco. How do you see these assets developing in terms of drilling activity and production this year?
When we drilled Falcon, we thought it was a major achievement, and it was for the first short period of its life. And then we started to get water ingressing into the drill stem, and what that didn't matter too much, but the volumes got so high that we had to then dispose of the water, which meant that we had to ship it off-site, and that has consequential costs to the bottom line. So we spent some time trying to work out exactly what was going on. And I'm an accountant, I'm not a geologist, so it's beyond my understanding. But we eventually believed we got the answer. So we went back to Falcon, and we've re-entered the stem higher up the formation, if you like. So that seems to have largely stopped the water problem. Its production is lower than what the highlights was when it first started, but it's now on steady production. I think we're talking about 120 barrels a day between the gas equivalent and some oil or condensate. And that seems to be quite steady at the moment. So that's a lovely baseline for the project. We had 50% of that.
Okay, John, I'm going to bring up a slide of the Polk County acquisition now. This is, of course, the leases I think that you acquired alongside the Stanley well. Can you talk us through these?
Yes. So this is just to the east of Houston, and it's the Polk County is correct. So we're involved in a number of projects here. The original project was the Stanley project. We've participated in 4 wells, which you can see there, and we have plans for a 5th well, Stanley 5. About 12 months ago, we bought into Greater Stanley, which is the sort of orangey shade, and then more recently in the Nadsoilco acquisition, besides increasing our position in Stanley and Greater Stanley, we've also picked up the Winters lease, which is the one to the south. It's very significant in the overall planning for the company. So we obviously get a 20% lift in production in most of those assets, but importantly, There are 2 immediate wells ready to go. The first one is Winters, and we are in the process of signing drill contracts with that. And you can see Winters 2 marked on that map. The significance of that is that the property in between has a couple of production wells on it. They're producing very nicely in the sort of 190 barrel a day range. And we believe that we can access the same structure as such.
That's excellent. So a lot to look forward to from the Texas oil assets during this year. So moving to the other side of the world now, of course, John, where you are at the moment as we talk. So we're coming back to Australia. The EP145 helium asset is generating a lot of interest and speculation among the investing community, not least because of a recent note on Georgina Energy, a company set to list in London this year, and which has a share in the Mount Winter helium project, in which Mosman also has a stake. Now, Mount Winter, I believe, is estimated to host up to 75 billion cubic feet of helium. Can you tell us about these projects and, of course, your own 100% owned, or Mosman's 100% owned EP145 project? And again, I'm going to bring up another slide.
Yes, this is the Amadeus Basin. It's in central Australia. It's a proven petroleum basin. Central Petroleum have been producing from this area for some time at 3 different locations, and they're continuing to explore. They have a large joint venture with Santos, which is a major Australian oil and gas company. So we had 2 projects, 155, which is the Mount Winter project. We did farm out to Georgina Energy 12, 18 months ago. And the focus on that right now is to secure the native title rights, which is in process, and I think will be achieved from what I see in the background. And then Georgina will get funded through its IPO, and it will get on with exploration. They have a slightly different approach to us, but that's fine. They're strong technical people, so we don't have major clashes with the approach. And they will go off and they will get going as such. On 145, which is the project we're still own 100% of, which is more or less in the middle of this map, you can see it there. That has production to the left and right of it, or to the east and west of it, if you want to quote it in those terms. And we're at 100%. It's just been renewed, this license, and we're very optimistic that this could contain quite significant resources as such. So the first thing that's going to happen is we will do a gravity survey. This will be a flown survey. That was due to start on the 5th. Unfortunately, there's been a COVID outbreak in Alice Springs recently, and we need to access Alice Springs to be able to access the airport. But we think that will now start in the next week or 2, so there's not much of a delay. And that leads us to getting a very strong database. They're using Falcon as the genesis for that. And then once we get that, we'll interpret the results, and then we'll move on to a seismic program. So we've done quite a lot of work on planning the seismic. What the Falcon project testing will enable us to focus down on particular areas. It will be the first time that we'll have sizable seismic over this lease. We've had some seismic which we've reinterpreted, but this will be more or less a complete project review. And hopefully that will then prioritise the drill targets. So we'd be looking to drill after the seismic is completed, which will be later this year, which is obviously after the gravity program is completed in July. So there's a lot of work happening on this project. It's run out of Sydney by Dr. Julie Dawes, as I said, and it's potentially very significant. You never know how significant these things are until you do the work.
Of course. But I know your broker, SP Angel over here, has published a note early this year, and they believe that this could be absolutely transformational for you as a company. And certainly, given Mosman's current market cap, it does seem that the market has yet to appreciate the value of these helium assets. Where do you see the value inflection points arriving here, John?
I see them in, I guess, in 145 and 155. I see in the work, in delivering the results. So in the Winters project, it's very much up to Georgina Energy to do the work, which will come after the IPO, and that will start delivering results. In 145, we've got a program lined out for the rest of this year. So, as I said, the first thing is the gravity survey, which happens shortly. And that leads on to seismic, and that leads on to drilling as such. So I think there's a lot there. In Texas, the whole concept behind Texas producing assets is to keep building those assets up and to keep trying to increase the production rate. And that will give us the cash flow to do all sorts of other things as such.
Of course.
We've had some stops and starts in that process. And oil price collapsed, obviously, a while ago, and it's now done the significant reverse of that. But it's the good sound assets. They're not Gulf of Mexico huge oil and gas projects, which you see in that part of the world, but they are strong assets. And now that we've got management control, which was the other critical element in the Nadsoilco acquisition, we can effectively run those assets. Howard is very good in that area, and he's very good at understanding the wells, understanding what's going to be done, regular routine maintenance, all those things which really was not done to our satisfaction previously.
Okay. So John, just moving on to the Mosman, the company itself. Aside from the £1.5 million raised early this year to fund the EP145 project, there have also been several warrant exercises that have brought more cash into the company. How does the funding position look at the moment?
Oh, okay, that's quite simple. So after the payment for Nadsoilco, there is about $2.5 million Australian dollars in the bank, free cash. There is no debt whatsoever, apart from day-to-day trade credit will not happen. But if we can keep building production, we keep building cash flow, and the company has a far sounder future.
Great. Okay. Well, John, we're running short on time. Before we wrap up, can you tell us what investors should look out for, the key developments and inflection points investors should look out for during the second half of 2021?
Yes, Alan, I think people should look for the float surrounding the Mount Winters project. I think they should look for the results of the gravity survey on 145 as such, and then I think they should continue to watch the building of production and additional wells in the Texas portfolio. So we'll be drilling 2 wells. Well, if all goes well, and I don't really like to predict these things too much, but within the next 60 days, we could well drill another 2 wells.
Terrific. Well, John Barr, it looks very exciting going forward into the second half of the year for Mosman. John Barr, Executive Chairman at Mosman Oil and Gas, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.